What up, girl?
Ka for dish, the show where we cook. Okay. Hey,
Oh
girl.
my God. Did
I'm.
you rob a Joanne Fabrics? What's going on with those earrings, girl? Tell me everything.
Oh,
I
you want to
love
know about
it.
these? You want to know about her right here? Look at my earlobe. So I'm really leaning into my 30s with this look. I'm bringing you winter separates with a very bold, glossy lip. I don't usually do gloss on my lips, but it just brings a little bit of extra, like, one might say drama, one might say Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. I'll let you be the judge.
I do not think it's Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. Ooh, I do like that though. I don't have a gloss on my lips. I just ate a bunch of edamame with sesame oil on it.
That's the difficult thing about
That's
lipstick
my
is when you introduce the oil, that's when things start running, which is kind of sexy. It's kind of sexy if you think about it in the right way. But and then this jewelry, this iconic jewelry from Odyssey and Oddities, Nikki Lundberg from up in Cleveland area. We've featured her
Nice.
jewelry before on this program, especially early on. I think you remember that red beaded tassel necklace with the long tassel earrings.
Oh, I love that on you.
Thank you. That was Nikki.
Yes.
That was Nikki. We love. So shout out to Nikki.
Wherever you are, girl.
Work. You better work. So, girl, let's get right into it. We've come out in so many different ways on this show, but I just want to come out again. I'm gay. Brooke Curtis and I are lovers. Girl, I'm in love with you. And
Everybody
baby,
knew it. Everybody knew it.
And-
Everybody knew it.
and baby, I hope you're watching because we're through. Brooke and I are
We're
together now,
through.
and that's just what it is. So,
You know, the real question is why? Why you would wait till we are so far away? Ooh, hold on. So this weekend,
why would I wait 50 episodes
that's what I'm saying.
to air this? Let the truth
This
be known.
weekend, I was in town in Columbus officiating the wedding of Nikki Winkleman. Ooh,
Oh my gosh, let's get that on the dish cam. That ring light is not cooperating.
there we go.
There they are. Oh my gosh.
So this is the original wedding a year ago, and then we surprised everybody with a wedding / first year anniversary this weekend. And you were my forever wedding date, Eileen, as you always are. And I'm going to say, if you were going to confess your love for me, that was the time. You missed the window.
Well, I didn't want to make it all about me, you know.
Girl.
Sometimes that, it's been known to happen. There are events about other things than me. I'll admit it.
Rarely.
Yeah. But speaking of me, check out this skirt. Isn't this fun? It's like a wide self belt, very 70s. And I like
oh
this.
my God.
This jewelry looks like little mandarin oranges. I really like that.
I am obsessed with that skirt.
Thank you. It's like an
It
A-line,
is
like just the right amount of flare so that you can turn and have a little swish.
very Betty Davis.
Yes.
Very vintage. I love the
Houndstooth
belt.
bias cut.
Love it. Oh!
And that's gay rights. We did it. Everyone go home.
Take a nap.
Take a
We're
nap.
zonked. Anyways. Hello.
So, girl, happy Black History Month.
Oh my God.
We have to bring it up. We have to bring it up. This is the month of the year where we remind you, because you should be doing it all year, to uplift Black voices and support Black businesses, etc., etc.
If you are looking for a good read and to support a Black woman author who's absolutely amazing, you should check out, if you have not read it, and this is particularly for white folks who listen, Isabel Wilkerson's Cast.
Oh, yes.
Caste. If you haven't heard of it, it'll change your life.
Yes.
If you have heard of it and you've been avoiding the book, this is your reminder to get it. Because not only are you supporting Black writers, but it is I would say it's a transformational book to read. So
Monty's reading it right now. Can you believe that? He just finished The Warmth of Other Suns. And her first book, I think it was her first book.
It was her first book, yeah.
And we've been talking about it. That one was really, really incredibly changing for me because it takes the history of, sharecropping and slavery and the Great Migration. It puts it all in the perspective of interviews. And it makes it really deeply personal and kind of walks you through what the experience of what that was like for real flesh and blood human beings. So, yes. Isabel Wilkerson, amazing.
Yeah, fabulous. So,
Yes, indeed.
super light.
All right.
Are we getting comments in the chat?
They must still be sleeping. We better wake them up. Sometimes they just need a little fan service.
Oh my God, girl, I love it. So this week we were talking about coming out, and I love that we're talking about coming out because I think there's a million ways we come out. And I think sometimes, obviously, we don't want to co-opt the gay experience and say like, oh, it's the same as everything. But, you know, there's a lot of overlap. And we've talked in our kink episode about that too, about like a lot of times in the kink community and the fetish community and BDSM, like they will compare coming out to their family. Folks will compare coming out to their family as kink, which I don't really know why you're bringing that to your family, but do you, boo, whatever, and compare it to coming out as gay or queer or trans. And I think it's a really interesting correlation. I think there is some overlap.
Yeah. There's intersectional coming out as multiple identities.
Right.
Girl, you want to see a human being short circuit? Try explaining trans lesbianism to the straights.
Okay, wait, let me see if I got it. But let's just wait. Let's do an insider trading. So trans lesbianism.
Train the trainer.
Is just a trans woman who's attracted to women, right?
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. Brooke wins. Not that we're surprised, but that is indeed what it is.
Well, no, but I feel like people get really hung up because it's the problem with our culture is, girl.
How much
That's
time you got?
The name of the podcast.
Yeah.
The problem with our culture
that
is,
escalated.
No, the problem with our culture is we equate sexual orientation and gender identity as the same thing, which partially is because we're lumped in LGBTQ. That's what's happened. But I just don't. I mean, I feel like we need flashcards. I did this when I first came out to my family, and I was like, as gay, and I was like holding up flashcards, and I'm like, okay, Chaz Bono. And I was like, heterosexual, homosexual, transgender, or cisgender.
And they were like,
Ellen DeGeneres.
Dancing with the Stars. And they were like, pairing it with television shows. Like
Herringbone sweater. Like,
oh
it was
God.
a mess.
Yes, yes.
It was a mess. But it's just the connections in our head from our culture. So I love that. Trans lesbianism also sounds like a Death Cab for Cutie CD. So I get it.
Yeah. And I'll follow you into the dark. I love
yes.
Death Cab. I miss Death Cab.
Girl, what are we talking about coming out as what today? Is it vampires?
Ooh, vampires, you say? I actually am on a Vampire the Masquerade game, so if you want to talk about all the different clan vampires and what their like strengths and weaknesses are, I'm here for that. But
you're no, like I'm actually very available for that.
I have 100% time for that discussion. I think we're coming out as non-monogamous. Because
ooh, yeah.
that is a thread that runs through the ethos of this entire show. But it's also something that you and I have done a few times. We've come out to partners. We've come out to joy friends. See, I'm learning. I picked up that term from last week.
I really like the word joy friends. I need to start using it more.
I do too.
It's having a renaissance for me.
For you? It's like spring awakening for joy friends?
Yeah.
I like it because it's like people don't... I don't really care for people to know even the details of like... There's something so presumptuous about gender. The more I sit with gender, the more I think it's presumptuous and harmful and yada yada. That's a whole separate soapbox. But I love gender-neutral terms not just because they're inclusive of non-binary people, but also because the minute that you gender someone in the third person whom you don't really know anything else about, like assumptions, associations, they all just flood in. And it's just like, let's think about the human and not just the cultural expectations that we pin on like primary and secondary sex characteristics, which don't mean anything. Right. Okay, I'm stepping down.
No, I love that. And I think it's also just like such a privacy thing. Like I refer to like my partner as they, them all the time. And people are like, oh, sorry, are they non-binary? I'm like, no. Like, I'm just like, it's not relevant to you. Like, how is it relevant to you?
Yeah.
What does this change for you?
Yeah.
And if it does change something for you, ask yourself why.
Ask yourself why. It is understandable to be why. There's this field of study in linguistics called pragmatics, and it's about what is present in the discourse and what new utterances introduce to the discourse. So if you are using a term that is perceived to be non-standard, such as non-binary terms, like if you are not used to hearing singular they, and you hear singular they, you're like, oh, something new is in the discourse, so that now I'm trying to like find assumptions about what that means. And it's difficult to ask people to loosen up those assumptions. Right. Like, no, I'm not adding anything meaningful to the discourse. I'm just inviting you to consider that this might be more people than what you might typically be allowing in the possibility space of this discussion.
Right. And it's like this stretch and expansion of the sphere, and like a new neural pathway in your brain that has to like compute. And I absolutely get that. And that's why it's like, okay, they, them is hard for you, and you make a mistake a few times. That's one thing. But if it's continual and you're like, I'm a grammar Nazi. I'm like, first of all, I don't really know if you should be comparing yourself to Nazi, Cheryl. Like, I don't think that's the way you want to go. And so, like, that's not the people you want to be like, me, history. Second of all, like, you use the wrong version of your in every Facebook post. So can we all chill out on your, you're very grammatically correct. Like, those kind of catches, I can't.
There's a lot of apostrophes there, Cheryl.
There's so many, and there's like a random E. All right, so, coming out as non-monogamous, I always think it's interesting because I do think it's really important to separate it in some ways from sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, I remember us having this conversation, oh my God, with this precious crumb from like a long time ago. We were friends, but we reconnected when I was in Ohio. We got drinks. And I was like, hey, my partner's coming. And ironically, my partner was they, them. And they're like, well, are you open? And I was like, well, no, but why do you ask?
Mm-hmm.
And because we weren't at the time. And she's like, well, I mean, my brother is in a partnership and he's open and he's with a man. So, and I was like, oh, you think all gay people are non-monogamous?
Oh,
and
interesting.
It's just this, like, really fascinating thing. She said, well, everyone I know who's gay is. And I was like, that's because we doing it right. But I was like, also like, what? And I was like, do you separate? Or is it on you to separate? And is it just like, whatever, figure your life out?
Yeah, well, if people make assumptions without conversation, without actually inviting you in and asking questions, then it's like, you can't really control that, right? People are going to make incorrect assumptions all the time. But if it does come up, I think that that's a really gracious way of handling it. Saying, oh, yeah, I think what you're saying is that you thought all gay people are non-monogamous, which is not necessarily the case. So, just,
right.
you know.
I was a smart ass too. I was like, well, you've seen Modern Family, so you know we're not all non-monogamous. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dealing with I don't know. Anyways,
yeah.
But
if you've seen Modern Family and Will and Grace and Queer Eye, then you know everything there is to know about gay people.
You've done it. Congratulations, you're an ally. You get a pin.
Yeah, you're an ally. Thank you.
You complete that show on Netflix. You complete Will and Grace on Netflix and you get a little pin.
Yeah, a little enamel pin. And it's Jack just going.
Yeah. I guess. Love it. No, but I think it's always interesting, and it's always like, you do it in having the conversations. I also am always amazed, and I don't know if this is the case for you, where like you think it's going to be this huge thing, or you think whatever, and most of the people I've talked to about it when they've had this experience, have conversations with family or close friends and are nervous, and then they're like, oh wow, no, like they had a story to share. It was like, oh, I get that. Like our friends asked us if we were swingers and we're not. And it's like, okay, so you know what I mean? It's just around there's so many different words for it that like, it's actually amazing the overlap and how many people have experiences in it, but don't have the language for it.
Yeah. Some people don't even realize that swinging is a form of non-monogamy, You
heard it here first.
And you may quote me on that. Swinging is a form of non-monogamy, and if it's something that you haven't really explored yourself with your partner, it seems really daunting and scary. It's kind of like that generational thing with wasps in my family who are like Gen X and above, and it's like therapy is this thing where they assume that you go to therapy because you're broken and you're going to get fixed. And in the same way, it's like, oh, we haven't considered opening up the marriage because that means our marriage is failing, right? And
right.
It's difficult to get past that first mental block where it's like, you don't even need to, like, some people think non-monogamy, you're going to go right from swinging to, like, cuckoldry. And you don't have to go straight.
Google it. We don't have the time.
We don't have the time. Yeah, I've already thrown out a lot of, like, really shocking terms on the show and then told people to not go Google them. So let's add another one to the list.
Google it, but don't Google it on your work phone. Keep going.
Yeah, so if you have this mental block and you're like, I've never considered anything in the non-monogamy realm before, you might think I have to go straight from nothing to the advanced course. It's like, well, let's just start off with like maybe talking together with your partner about people that you find attractive. That's a really fun, safe way that you can talk about you can approach non-monogamy without having to like pay full price for the salad buffet.
Well, and it also was one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, what an incredible gift. Because even in that conversation, you're going to test things like the boundaries of your jealousy. Last week, compersion, you're right. Like,
yeah, you're going to discover some complex feelings the first time you have that
right.
discussion.
And like, even if you're at a bar and they get turned down, right? Like maybe you're like, oh, go talk to that woman, and they go and it doesn't work. What do you feel? Do you feel empathy? Do you feel shouting for you? Are you like, yes, good. I'm glad they did, right?
I'm glad they fell flat on their face. Whoops, where did that feeling come from?
And then it's like, check in with that feeling, girl. Tomorrow, though, after the doctor. Right, but there you kind of like learn like your edge and, you know, where you have your lines and stuff like that. But it's like, everyone, you know what I mean? The people I've talked to is like, no, like I came out or I said this, or it's like, oh, I have, you know, a friend I see or whatever, and it's like, and they're like, oh, okay. And you know, it is everywhere. Like kind of like what I said before, where it's like, no, it's everywhere. Like you know, we have compersion and jealousy with our friends. Our friends fill our tank in ways our partners can't. Like this is not new. It's just a different lens.
Yeah, it's different lens.
For you, girl?
It's different flavor. How did coming out to as non-monogamous to your partner, how did that go for the first time that you attempted that?
Girl. Which divorce? Just kidding. You go first.
You're like, I have so many rings just in the incinerator over here, and I'm just ready to pull the lever. I'm just like, whoosh, and they just all go up in flames. The first time I attempted it did not go great. So we had been together for a couple of years, and I needed to just feel out being in a relationship because it was my first relationship ever. Mm-hmm. And I needed to feel out what we were and what we were doing before I introduced what I considered to be complicating factors. So I said, hey, I have this thing that I need to talk to you about. I feel that I'm a non-monogamous person, and that means that you fulfill all my emotional needs, but I have physical needs that are beyond what simply one person can provide. So let's talk about that a little bit. And there was a long processing period because I think that they are not really wired that way. They weren't wired that way. So we had to take a step back and talk about it a lot. And during that time period, which I won't say went perfectly smoothly. You know, this is not Covered Dish, the show where we pretend like everything was perfect in our lives. Oh, I like that with the glossy lip. Cheryl,
oh, yeah, that looks great.
Did you eat my lunch in the office refrigerator? There were feelings of jealousy that came up when distrust. I think it created an element of distrust until we worked through that, and it took time and positive reinforcement to really show, okay, I'm doing these things because I'm aware of the fact that this makes you uncomfortable. And I just want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. And I want to reevaluate what our needs are as a couple to show you that I'm not going to try and go around you. Like, I'm going to give you full access to whatever information you feel like you need in order for this to work for both of us.
Yeah.
But it was a tenuous balance. I mean, I think there were some points where it was like, there was some anger. And it was like, well... Yeah. Is this really going to work for us?
Right. And I think, you know, it's interesting because you said, oh, wow, like, you know, this to me felt like a complicating factor. And yeah. I love that you said that because it is a complicating factor. And I don't think you can gloss over that word. But I also think it's a relieving factor. So, right, the energy and effort it takes in the complication, the relief of it is what is the payoff, right? Where it's like, you can be your true self.
Yeah, that's the
goal. And like, that's the goal, right? But I don't think it happens. I think there is this feeling of like, well, you're non-monogamous or whatever. Like, you don't say it. It's not, there's no place like home. You don't say it 3 times and click your heels and have everything be fine.
I wish.
You know? And I think that's, Judy. I think that's
Judy.
What I think that can be the misconception, especially when you're younger, where it's like, okay, if you're younger and you're in, you know, relationships that aren't necessarily, if you're not looking for something long-term and that's language you use, it's very different when you're like, hey, I want to partner with you for a significant relationship or a significant part of my life or whatever it means for you. And then the fear of loss is deeper, right? So I think that it does change. And I'm not saying young people can't get serious in relationships. Obviously, you got very serious. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's part of when people are like, oh, I could be non-monogamous, like, not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, what are your expectations of that person? Because it takes two people who are very good at compersion or compartmentalization and communication and emotional maturity to be able to hang pretty quickly through non-monogamy. Like, I think there is immense growing pains. And I think as long as you have the conversations and understand either A, come in with this expectation, right? So no one's blindsided. But I think there was this fear, I was talking to someone who was like, I think I'm not monogamous. I've been in a marriage for way too long. And I said, all right, like, are you going to tell them? It was a heterosexual couple. And she's like, oh my God, I'm mortified. And I was like, well, how long have you known you're not monogamous? She's like, years. Wow. And I'm like, fuck, you know what I mean? So that there's also the weight of the even getting the words out of your mouth. I mean, depending on your situation, whatever, like, right. Even that weight of identity, because I think that's the point you brought up. This isn't a practice. This is a part of an identity. So even it's like bisexuality. You don't have to be having sex with a man and a woman, certainly at the same time. No, in this economy, to be considered bisexual.
What is the emotional bandwidth for that? People do, but I don't know.
You know,
I have a lot of friends to catch up on.
Or whatever. You don't have to be like practice. You know what I mean? Like, you could say I'm a non-monogamous person and I'm not currently acting on that, but that is a huge piece of my, relationship love language.
It is, and I think it can be helpful to an extent to frame it as an identity because it is something that is, I believe it to be something about yourself that is a need. It's a need, right? I mean, I can convince myself for the rest of my relationships or for the rest of my life that I will be emotionally fulfilled, that all my needs are physically fulfilled by a single relationship. But I think I would be doing myself a disservice and I'd be being dishonest to my partners. Let's think about coming out as non-monogamous in terms of coming out as gay or queer. If someone, dear viewers, if you find yourself in a position where someone whomst is coming out to you, just remember that in order for that person to come out to you, they're entrusting you with a certain amount of vulnerability. So they're not saying that because they want to like sleep with other people or that they want the relationship to fail. I don't think they want the relationship to fail, typically speaking, most people.
No, because I feel like if they wanted that, they just end it and move on.
Exactly. So it's difficult to bring up, especially if it's the first time, and give it a chance, because if you talk through it with somebody, you may find a way of appreciating them in a way that wasn't even possible before.
Yeah. I
think it can really enrich a relationship. Hot take. Bold takes on the dish. But I think non-monogamy can really enrich a relationship.
Bold like that lip, girl. Bold like that lip.
Chanel. Not really.
Yes.
No, it's something. It's a Wet n Wild pencil I got at the drugstore.
Girl, Wet n Wild. We love a Wet n Wild. Wet n Wild fans in the chat. Wet n Wild was like the only thing I bought when I was a little kid.
Makeup is such a racket. Best. Like, just get something that works. It
was the best.
If it doesn't make you break out and it doesn't stain your skin, go for it.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, I think it is one of those things that it can strengthen the relationship, but I think people have this misconception that there's going to be less trust, and I actually find the opposite to be true.
You're probably going to find your way to more trust.
Right, and because you can be more honest. I hate the narrative of, this, I hate the narrative of the one girl. Wait, I hate the narrative of the one. Yes, I hate it. You know what I mean? It drives me crazy. But it's like, okay, like if you are one of those people that believes in the one, I don't know how you ended up here, to be honest, but good for you. Hi. But if you understand that we're
good
humans,
on you
right?
for the stamina it took to withstand 50 episodes of this.
Oh my God, I know. I love that you think they've been with us from the beginning. I'm like,
yeah, from the very beginning. Die hard, hardcore fans.
But I think what it is for me is I think it's a good reminder, especially in terms of that like you are missing out on a piece of your partner, especially if they're non-monogamous and they can't share that. Like, how disappointing. Don't you want to know? And I think there can be a really incredible gift of like, hey, you know, even if we just talk about it, even if we just go to a bar and we're like, all right, you know, are you into her? Oh no, are you into him? Like, you know what I mean? I think that can just be fun and flirty. And that is a level, admitting you are attracted to other people and other people are attracted to you. That's it. There's so many levels to it.
Frankly, I think it's a level of candor that a lot of relationships are not willing to approach, because it's like, well, we're going to pretend that we're not attracted to anyone else ever. You know, you talk about it with your friends, and then you go back to your partner and you're like, no, you're the only one for me. It's like, I don't know if that's true.
Well, and I also think it can be back to Esther Perel, marriage counselor, who wrote Mating in Captivity, which is an interesting book.
Yeah, I have to read that.
You know, part of why relationships don't work is we lose our own identity. And if part of your identity when you met your partner is really being like attractive and you love the first date and the beginning of things and blah, 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 like give yourself the gift of not losing that. Give yourself that gift. Because if that's a huge part of what feeds you, then even on friendship level, like don't lose that, you know?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it a lot. So I've been just real honest moment. Like it's been a really rough couple weeks from just social standpoint. I kind of went to Columbus to like see people, and then there was a huge snowstorm and I didn't get to see as many people as I wanted. And I've been really busy down here, and due to some circumstances, haven't seen a ton of people. I'm just like, oh my God, like I know now at the age I'm at, I need a lot of social interaction. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, how do I get it? And it's a pandemic and blah, blah, blah. But that self-awareness is part of why I know what I need. And it's just kind of a check-in with what you need. And even if you can't meet the needs right now, to know how to do it. You know?
Yeah. I still have trouble understanding what I need. I think that's something I'm trying to do better with, because I push a lot of those feelings down. Like, yeah, I need this, but I have other things I need to get done. And it's a fine line between pushing those needs down and drowning, and saying, okay, I'm going to compromise. And I'm going to say, I can't do everything I want right now, but I definitely need this. Like, this is getting pretty loud. I need to be by myself, or I haven't eaten in enough time, or I haven't slept enough.
Yes.
I've had a lot of those moments over the last 2 years, because I just can't do as much as I used to be able to do.
Right. Well, I know I need to like hang out with people that really like feed me. And I'm really excited to say former guest on the dish, Joseph, is going to be in Florida. So I'm going to see him this weekend.
I thought you were going to say coming back to the dish. I was like, girl.
No.
Coming to Florida. Damn it. Well.
Yeah. And you're coming to Florida. Your Miami debut is coming up. So I'm forcing my friends, by the way, because I have no friends where I live. I'm working on it. I have 2 friends.
Once they get a load of me, you're about to have a lot more friends, baby.
Girl, tell me about it. I was like, can you book me on the show that Eileen is on, please?
I know, we should have just asked that from the get-go, but
we should have been a package deal.
Yeah.
But I love that. I'm really excited to have you down here. So you'll be on our show. So folks who have friends in Miami,
I'm excited for warm weather.
Yeah, please tell them Eileen will be down here mid-March. If you have any friends down here, please have them come out. We'll be at Villain Theater the second weekend of March, and it's just going to be absolutely fabulous. And girl, you are absolutely fabulous with your baubles.
Girl, you're absolutely fabulous with that double strap lace camisole, if I'm not mistaken. I think fashion has entered the chat.
First of all I do is wear black and gold. I love that you call it fashion. I call it boring.
Listen, that updo with that large hoop earring is just, with the red lip. It's very black tie event.
Yes,
Lady of quality.
right next to me.
Lady of quality. Sam Baraduce is here. Hey Sam, thanks for joining us. Sam is also ready for winter weather to be over. So yeah, you and me both.
Feel you.
Oh,
come to Miami. All right, well, girl, it is 7:30. I can't believe time flew by.
I know, it's time to release our beloved audience back to their lives, back to all the other important things they have to do. But I just want you to know that Cover Dish will always be here for you Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you'd like to let us know what you want us to talk about in a transatlantic accent, just like the one you hear now, you can go to coverdish.com. Girl.
That was really good at the end. It was very old-timey operator.
Yeah, I'm a little off the chain. We don't have coverdish.com, so don't do that. That's going to take you somewhere. But anyway. We'll see you next time. Remember, it's Black History Month, so do that.
Go buy Cast and read it and tell us what you think. Bye.
We love you. Bye.